Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today we're doing a Weather Painter deck profile. So I'm really excited this for you guys because this deck got some amazing support out of Dimension Force, giving us a new boss monster and even an incredibly powerful new field spell that helps us summon the boss monster. And this deck doesn't make misplays, it just makes happy little accidents. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron, along with test stands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the Weather Painter Snow. This card is a great 3 of in the deck, has the ability that when this card is normal summoned, you can place the Weather spell or trap card from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone. And you can only use that effect once per turn, and then all of your main deck Weather monsters share the ability that once per turn, during the standby phase of the turn after this card was banished from the field to activate the Weather card's effect, you can special summon this banished card, which is a really good effect because it works with all of your spell and trap cards. We then play 3 copies of the Weather Painter Thunder. Weather Painter Thunder is a great 3-of for the deck that has the ability that you can send one face-up continuous spell or trap card you control to the graveyard, and then place the Weather spell or trap card from your deck face-up in your spell and trap card zone, getting you the exact one that you need on your side of the field, but you can only use that effect once per turn. We then play 3 copies of the Weather Painter Cloud. The Weather Painter Cloud is a great 3-of with the ability that if another face-up the Weather card you control is sent to the graveyard, then you can target up to 2 the Weather spell or trap cards in your graveyard and place them face up in your spell and trap card zone, which helps you recover some of your cards that you want to put back on the field. We then play a single copy of the Weather Painter Sun. The Weather Painter Sun is just a good 1-of in the deck that has the ability that if this card is in your graveyard, you can send one face up continuous spell or trap card you control to the graveyard to special summon this card in defense position, and if you do, you get to place the Weather spell or trap card from your hand face up in your spell and trap card zone, which is a really good effect just to get this monster back on your side of the field to help you go in for all sorts of different plays. We then play 3 copies of Dimensional Shifter. Dimensional Shifter is a great hand trap in this deck because you don't really mind if any of your cards get banished, so this card is a great 3-of in the deck that can completely shut down your opponent's strategy that can just banish every single card, with the ability that if you have no cards in your graveyard, quick effect, you send this card from your hand to the graveyard until the end phase of the next turn, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is a really good hand trap that basically just stops the opponent from touching the deck, so this card is a definite 3-of in this build to be able to slow the opponent down while we're going in for all of our different plays. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Terraforming. Terraforming is a really good 1-of in the deck that helps us get to our insanely powerful field spell that is just such a good card. We then play a single copy of Dimensional Fissure. Dimensional Fissure is a good 1-of because any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead, which is a great card for the deck to make sure that your opponent's cards are not going to the graveyard and getting banished instead. We're then playing a single copy of the Weather Rainy Canvas. The Weather Rainy Canvas is a really good card because all of your weather cards share the ability that the weather effect monsters in your main monster zones of this card's column and its adjacent columns gain this ability. Now, all of your spells and traps share that ability that any monster that is directly above it, say here, and the zones to the right and the left of it gain the following effects on every single one of your spells and traps that are in the spell and trap card zone, which is a really cool effect. So this card has the ability that you can banish this card, meaning the monster, and then target a spell or trap card your opponent controls, and quick effect, return it to the hand, which is a really good effect just to give you a bounce of an opponent's spell or trap card that they might have a floodgate on the field, and you don't want that card on the field, so you can bounce it with this card. We then play 3 copies of the Weather Snowy Canvas. Snowy Canvas is a great 3-of for the deck as well. That is the ability that you can banish this card, meaning the monster, to quick effect, add the Weather card from your deck to your hand. Also, you cannot add cards from your deck to your hand for the rest of the turn except by drawing them, which is totally fine for this deck. We then play 3 copies of the Weather Forecast. The Weather Forecast is a really good card for the deck with the ability that when this card is activated, you can place the Weather spell or trap card from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone. And you can only use each effect of this following effects of this card once per turn. That if you link summon the Weather Link monster, then you can also use face up the Weather cards in your spell and trap card zone as the Weather monsters for its Link Summon. And then during your main phase, you can immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon the weather monster from your hand to your side of the field, which is a really good effect just to get you an additional monster on your side of the field. This card basically fixed a lot of the problems that the deck had, that you couldn't really Link Summon for the Link 3 that the deck had, but now you can use the spells and traps to be able to Link Summon it, which is really good, while also giving you a card that can put another card on your side of the field to go in for that Link monster. We then play 3 copies of the map. The map is really good because it helps us get to snowy canvas, and in certain situations when you've used all of your snowy canvas or your snowy painter, you can actually use it to get your copies of Ash Blossom, which is really good because at the start of your main phase 1, add 1 monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand, but you half your life points, and after adding it to your hand until the end of the next turn after this card resolves, or after this card was activated, you cannot activate the added monster's effects or effects of the cards with the same name until you normal summon that monster or a monster with its name, which is totally fine because you're always going to be normal summoning out that copy of Snow to your side of the field because it's the best normal summon in the deck. You do sometimes when you want to make a rank 3, search out Ash Blossom if you've already used Snow though. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is just a really good card to stop your opponent's monster effects while also being able to sometimes lock down complete columns for spells and traps, which is really, really good. We then play 3 copies of Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute is really good in the deck because it helps us get monsters off the field to be able to help us go in for game, which is really, really good because this deck is mainly a control deck. This card is really good because you're going to be getting your monsters off the field and then using this card during the opponent's turn to be able to completely board wipe their monsters, and then during the next standby phase, you're going to get your monsters back, which is really good. We then play a single copy of the Weather Rainbowed Canvas. Rainbowed Canvas is a good one-of in the deck because if your opponent controls a monster, quick effect, you can banish this card, which is going to be the monsters and the columns, and then special summon the weather monster with a different name from your deck, and also you cannot special summon other monsters from the deck for the rest of the turn, which is totally fine because we're usually not special summoning from the deck anyways. We then play 2 copies of Thundery Canvas. Thundery Canvas is, in my opinion, the best one with the ability, and at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, which is going to be the monsters and the columns, then you can banish this card and then return the opponent's monster to the hand, which is really, really awesome to be able to bounce your opponent's monsters back to their hand. We then play 3 copies of Skill Drain. Skill Drain is just a really good card in the deck because you're getting your effects based on the canvas cards, not the monster effects. So this card can basically lock down your opponent where you're still getting your monsters' effects through the canvas cards and not through the actual monster's effects, which is really good. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. Something else you can add if you don't want to play the Ash Blossoms or the copies of Infinite Impermanence, you can play Kaijus in the deck as well because Thundery Canvas can bounce the Kaijus where you can use them over and over again. Just a thought for you guys of something I used to play in the deck. So let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of the Weather Painter Moonbow. Moonbow is really, really cool. And if you guys don't know what a moonbow is, it's actually a rainbow around the moon or the halo around the moon, which is really cool. But this card has the ability to take 3 the weather monsters. I really wish this was a Link 2, but I totally understand. But this card has the ability that this card, if this card is Link summoned, you can special summon out one of your banished the weather monsters. And if this Link summon card is destroyed, then you can special summon out one the Weather Painter Rainbow from your extract, and the weather monsters affect monsters that this card points to gains the following effects. That quick effect, you can banish this card and then target one monster that your opponent controls and banish it until the standby phase of the next turn, which is a pretty good effect just to get an opponent's monster off the field. We then play 3 copies of the Weather Painter Rainbow. Rainbow is a really good 3-of in the deck, and it has the ability that when your opponent would special summon a monster, quick effect, you can send this Link summoned card to the graveyard, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy the monster or monsters. And then once returned during the standby phase of the turn after this effect, or after this card was banished from the field to activate the weather card's effect, then you can special summon this banished card. And the weather effect monsters that this card points to gain the following effects: that when a card or effect is activated activated, quick effect, you can banish this card and negate the activation of you destroy that card. This card is a great card to get on your side of the field. It's just an incredible boss monster overall. We're then playing a single copy of Topologic Zeroboros. Zeroboros is a good one-of in the deck because you're banishing so many cards in this particular build that this card can get absolutely massive while also locking down 2 zones, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Access Code Talker. Access Code Talker is just really good because you can pop multiple cards on the field with this card. It's just a really big boss monster. We then play a single copy of Unicorn to spin stuff, a copy of Phoenix to pop spells and traps, and a copy of IP so we can go into the copy of Unicorn during the opponent's turn to bounce cards off the field. We then play a single copy of number 47, Nightmare Shark, so we can attack the opponent directly, 1 copy of Break Sword because it can pop cards on the field, which is really good, 1 copy of Fortune Tune because it helps us go for Zeus, 1 copy of Downer Magician because you can make it on top of any of your rank 3s, and then finally a single copy of Zeus just in case we need to board wipe. This card is really good in the deck because you can make it with any of these. You can make Downer Magician during the main 2, especially your copy of Nightmare Shark that can attack directly, and then make Downered, and then make Zeus, and then board wipe the opponent, which is really cool. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a super fun deck to be able to play with. If you guys have never played the Weather Painters, you definitely should. It's super fun to be able to play. I love all of the artwork of the cards. They're really cool. Hopefully we'll eventually get the Weather Painter Red. I don't know what it's going to be, but it would be really cool because that's the only one we're missing now. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys. Hit that bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.